Alright, today is September 13th, 2023, which is the 30-year anniversary of the release of Mortal Kombat on home console. So I'll move some of this stuff out the way. We'll talk about it a little later. I want to run through these magazines real quick. Try to take you back 30 years and yeah, the way we got our news back then. So we'll run through these two magazines. These were two of the big heavy hitters, Electronic Gaming Monthly and GamePro. Later on I started getting other magazines, but in September of 1993, these were the two I saw and got all the time. So we'll start with the EGM. And yeah, here we go. Little trip through memory lane. And this is the big deal right here, this ad. This ad right here, man, every time I saw this, it's kind of hard to describe what the feeling is. I mean, looking at it now, if you've never seen this ad before, this probably just doesn't look like anything special at all. But definitely at the time, video games really didn't have this kind of stuff, like this realistic, you didn't have photos of people, and something about this just looked cool, man. You got ninjas, you got this dude. Look at this face. The dragon logo, all this stuff, everything's black. A big contrast from stuff like Mario and Sonic the Hedgehog and things like that. So this was one of the coolest things ever. You just wanted to frame this, which I actually ended up doing basically at one point. Took one of these pages out. This is cool, man. I don't know. Like I say, if you weren't there at the time, I can totally understand if you see that and you just think, what's the big deal? But yeah, in '93 it really was. So yeah, we'll just run through this whole thing. I'm not going to linger too much on these pages. If you want to see it, you know, feel free to pause it and read what you can. Some fan art here. Really cool. I mean, most of the things at the time, of course, you're going to have your Mario and Sonic stuff, but Mortal Kombat was really the big deal, and Street Fighter, and most, you know, even stuff like this. We got Beavis and Butthead, but it's still Mortal Kombat. Yeah, very cool. People would draw on the actual envelopes and send those in. Very cool. Of course, Street Fighter 2 Turbo on the Super Nintendo is out. Yeah, here's your reviews. Right here you got 4 different opinions. You got a basic overview, and then you've got each individual person's thoughts on the game. And we got the Genesis over here. There you go. I tell you what's so cool, man. Like, yeah, Game Boy, some well-earned low numbers. I think they should be lower, but I think this guy's the closest to having it right. We'll talk about it. And then there's the Game Gear. The one thing I really loved about the video game magazines, I'll say this. So I'm not going to say that things were better then. I definitely appreciate the convenience of the internet, and it's really cool to be able to look up videos or hear the game, you know, hear the music, the sound effects, see the game in motion beforehand. That's all cool. And you know, instant access, all that stuff. But there definitely was something special about having to wait a month to get any kind of news of something, and the excitement of simply seeing a couple of screenshots of a game. Like, here you go, right? 3D is just kind of starting to emerge, right? This is talking about air combat, like the Ace Combat series. But yeah, you got real stoked about everything. And then, you know, you had to wait until the game came out to be disappointed, but this was definitely cool stuff. And one thing that's nice about, like, I've always held on to all my old video game magazines, and the cool thing about that is to revisit them, right? You see what the ads were at the time, games that maybe never came out, right, because they were in alpha and then they got canceled. You'll get to see screenshots of that stuff. And then just looking back through it, you're like, I don't even remember this game. So it's kind of cool. It's not just, I don't know, like today, if you went to a website that did video games, it would just be whatever's going on right now, but you don't really have the old stuff. I guess you could look up something like, archives or whatever. But and here's your blood codes. So this is the thing, like everybody remembers the ABAC, ABB, but Game Gear also had blood code 212 down up. It's one I'll never forget. It's not as commonly known, but pretty easy code. But that Game Gear version is actually pretty good. It plays pretty well, considering. Much better than, well, pretty much anything's better than the Game Boy version. But we're about to get to the MK, the main reason we're here. Right, you would buy a whole magazine just because of the cover and maybe a half dozen pages. But it's interesting seeing some of the prices of stuff too. Like a console would cost like $120, but then games were like 60 or 70 bucks. So we're just now kind of getting to those prices again for games, but yeah, can you imagine that? A console being the price of 2 games? Nutty. Alright, so here we go. The Super Nintendo version. Right, this is where we're talking about there's sweat in the game instead of blood, and showing what the fatalities were. Now, I think we mostly can admit that the Sub-Zero replacement fatality was still pretty cool, where he freezes them and shatters them, and we get something similar in MK2. Sonya's remains unchanged. Kano's now just makes no sense. He just grabs him by the peck and then holds his hand up because there's no heart. I actually thought this one was pretty cool, where he just basically electrocutes him into dust and his skull falls down. I think that one actually looks cool. Liu Kang's is pretty much unchanged, although the kicks don't really hit him. He just kind of does a twirl. Scorpion's pretty much the same, and then Johnny Cage's is rather weak, but I guess, hey, what are you gonna do? I think they had tried some other ones, but right, it's the problem when you got a big team and you got people that you have to answer to. You can make something that's cool, but somebody else is gonna say no, we can't do that. So unfortunate. Then here it is, Mortal Monday, September 13th. They promoted this a lot. Yeah, I'm just trying to think, did anybody else really name their release day? Right, you have the release date, but did you call it Mortal Monday? I'll say this, that was probably the longest day of school ever, was that day. Knowing that you're going to get to go to the store and get Mortal Kombat to take to the house. So that's another big thing about that time. Oh, this is a really cool game, Tournament Fighters. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Street Fighter clone is essentially what it is. It just I missed it when it came out. Like this right here, I probably wouldn't even notice this. I probably just flipped right past this because I'm looking for this Mortal Kombat. It's coming out next month. It's like, but that's actually a really cool game. If you've never played it, definitely check it out. It's in one of the Ninja Turtle collections. It's got all the beat 'em ups and whatnot, and it includes the U.S. and Japanese releases of the game. I recommend the Japanese version. It's got more stuff in it. Then here's the Genesis. Right? It was easy to tell in the screenshots that the Super Nintendo version looked better. But reading about it, getting an idea of what all in both versions, you have to make a decision. I think most people, it ultimately came down to the blood. That was really the big factor. So yeah, I had both consoles when this was coming out, so I could have picked either one, but I picked the Genesis. And I'll be honest, I was disappointed in it, mostly for the audio. It had good music, even though it wasn't the arcade music for the most part. It was still really good. It's actually done by one of my favorite Genesis composers, Matt Furness. And I didn't even know who did the music. It just happened that I really enjoyed the music of Alien 3 and G-Lock and then Mortal Kombat, and it all happened to be the same person. So then here's the Game Boy version. It actually doesn't look bad, to be honest, considering the Game Boy is just 4 shades of green. Right, we're seeing it in gray here, but that's all you've got to work with. But I mean, you can still tell. you can still tell what these are, who they are, and what attack is taking place. But the problem is the frame rate was terrible, but even beyond that, it was how delayed all of your inputs were. It was absolutely atrocious. Yeah, it played so bad, and then things like uppercuts took like a full second or two. I mean, it's supposed to be like a really quick punch, and it's just this drawn out thing. And then in contrast, the Game Gear version is actually really good. You're not going to pop it in and think it's the arcade or anything, but if you go from the Game Boy to the Game Gear, yeah, you're going to be like, wow, this is the best thing ever. Now, both games took a character out. The Game Boy didn't have Johnny Cage, but it had Kano, and then Game Gear didn't have Kano, so that was a bit of a drag. But, yeah, really good version. And I'll just do the last little bit here, and then we'll check out the other magazine. I'll try to roll through the other one quicker, since we've already kind of talked about this stuff, but we'll give it a look. This was one thing I never understood, was this layout right here. I never got a Super Nintendo arcade stick, because it's like, look at this. I don't understand why they didn't do 3 and 3 like Street Fighter. I mean, they're even promoting it as a fighting stick. It's like, yeah, do it like this, the Genesis version. This was much better. And there it is again, Mortal Monday. Right, and you see this crowd here. This is, if you've seen the newer Mortal Kombat ad with Batista, it's a throwback to this ad. And that really epic Mortal Kombat yell that you hear in the Mortal Kombat movie, like the one from '95, the one you hear all the time. That's what that's from, is that ad. Here's more fan art. Right, got some more Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter. Those were the games of our time. That's what we all grew up on. I'll say that probably most of the... I see this stuff a lot in Arcade 1-Up chats or whatever with the original Mortal Kombat games. Usually if at some point in a live stream or whatever, somebody will ask, so how old is everybody here? And then the numbers are in such a tight window. It's like, yeah, dude. We're all 35, 45, somewhere in there. Maybe a little more, a little less, but we're all kids or teenagers whenever Mortal Kombat came out, so we're the old guys now. It's okay. I'm glad I didn't miss this stuff, to be honest. So I had to black this out. I had actually filled this in when I was a kid. This was for KB Toys. That was a cool little toy store in the mall. But I ended up getting it at a place called Software Etc. That's back when you had to actually reserve your games. So I'll talk about that more in a minute. So here you go, Super Nintendo. Here's where we had our ratings, man. We did them out of 5, and you can see right here, this is graphics 5, what we got, sound 4.5, control 3.5. I think that's a little generous, but I mean, it played, it functioned, but you definitely had a delay. And it was even beyond a delay. Like if you tapped up on the D-pad, you actually didn't jump. You had to hold it. The animation timing was really off with a lot of it. But it looked good, man. That's the thing. Like this looks great. You can tell it's not the arcade, but it really, the colors are good and the sprites look good. Sub-Zero's got his original stance. And then honestly, the audio is really good. Because after I got my Genesis version, I played the Super Nintendo at somebody's house, and I was really impressed with the music. And that was actually my favorite part of the Super Nintendo version. Was like, I'd play the Genesis because it played good, but like I didn't have the music from the arcade. So, you know, I get to borrow the Super Nintendo version. I pretty much just leave it right on a stage and listen to the music. It sounds kind of dorky, but, you know, a lot of us did that stuff. We like sound test and all that, and I'm sure a lot of you, if you are in this demographic, you recorded music, you recorded stuff off of video games, put it on a cassette tape, and we're probably called a dork. But who cared, dude? We didn't care. You can call us what you want. We do what we like. We enjoyed it. And then after that, what happened? Oh, they started like releasing actual soundtracks, and then everybody was a video game fan. So it's okay. Now here you go. here's a dose of reality for you right here on the Game Boy version. Look at this. A 3, a 2.5, a 2 for controls. Still too generous. Definitely a 1. Oh man. Brutal. I don't want to look back, see if there was anything I missed on the Genesis version. It really was fun, dude. Despite the audio was the main thing. It was kind of like missing sound effects. You do a fatality and there'd be no sound, right, of you doing Johnny Cage's head punch. You would just hear them land on the ground, but not the actual punch. Or Kano's was completely silent. Like, he just ripped somebody's heart out and I heard absolutely nothing. Just stuff like that. Then here's the Game Gear version. Very cool. Then yeah, some more fighting games, man. Look at this, World Heroes, which I never really got into. Tournament Fighter is really cool. Clay Fighter, just a parody game. Eternal Champions. You got Street Fighter 2, right? Turbo and Champion Edition, Super Nintendo and Genesis. Art of Fighting, Samurai Showdown, and Time Killers. That was the big thing. That was the thing, fighting games. I'm actually glad to see, you know, the popularity kicking up a bit. But it is interesting that even with fighting games being still relevant now, you notice that for the most part, it's still just the series that were established back then, right? We're still getting Street Fighter. Mortal Kombat comes out. Well, I guess the Early Access Premium Edition comes out tomorrow, but for normies, it comes out Monday. Yeah, love seeing this stuff, dude. This was so exciting, like just seeing these screenshots. It's kind of hard to look back and go like, how could you be excited about seeing a screenshot? But yeah, like I say, you didn't have videos. You couldn't hop online and download a video of gameplay. In fact, whenever Mortal Kombat 2 was coming out, I would sit there and watch an entire show just in the hopes of catching the Mortal Kombat 2 commercial again, because it showed video of the game. But you couldn't see it any other way. That was it. It was just screenshots. So just to catch a glimpse of like Liu Kang doing the bicycle kick and all that, and assessing it and going like, wow, the animation's actually really good in this one. Because yeah, MK2 they did right. I'll say that. It's really good on the Super Nintendo. It's actually really good on the Genesis. Even the Game Boy version was good. It was playable. I never played the Game Gear version. I don't remember playing it, but either way, they did a good job on it. I guess they learned some lessons. Yeah, we'll finish this up. Cheat codes and stuff, right? That was another thing that was fun. Codes, whether they were put into the game by the developers or if you use something like a Game Shark, Game Genie, something like that, where it was basically a middleman between the cartridge and the system, and it could manipulate the game. But in no way were there updates or downloadable patches or downloadable anything. So, all right, let's take a quick look at some of the stuff. So, here it is. The version I got initially was the Sega Genesis version right here. Here's the back. They always had to have these like bullet points on everything. I love this, dude. I love this cabinet so much. And it's got this like angled corners that you don't get in the later Mortal Kombat arcade cabinets. It's very cool though. It's a nice box, but there you go. There was already a sign of disappointment right there. You see Sub-Zero and he's not in his own stance. It's just that was some of the stuff was just super lazy. It's not a limitation of the system. It's just like honestly, like all of the stances were like 3 frames of animation. It's like, dude, you could have put 3 more frames in there for Sub-Zero, and then 1 more half a sprite for right his upper body when he walks. Right, that wouldn't have broken the bank or anything. So let's take a look at what do we got here. Cool. You know, I kind of forget about all this kind of stuff, but there you go, that was in there. And then we've got the booklet itself. This is an excerpt from the comic right here. Actually, I should bust that out too. I've got the comic book, the one that you could send off for $3. So I'll try not to linger on this too long. Again, if you want to really read all this, just pause it, take a look. So I'll try to get my fingers out of the way. Oh yeah, that was a big deal. Ooh, you definitely didn't want to have the 3-button controller. So there was a 6-button controller that had just come out, and it was really necessary if you were playing Street Fighter, the Street Fighter 2 Champion Edition. I love these drawings, dude, and this to me is Kano right here. He's got this scruff, right, receding hairline, but he's not bald. That's the thing that I really don't like with the new MK that's coming out, and they've got a Mortal Kombat 1 Kano cameo, and they've got him like shaved like Mr. Clean. I'm like, that's not what he looked like. That's not right. Yeah, these are lots of, I forgot they had all this stuff. Lots of pictures from the comic book. Still great drawings, man. That's really good. So cool, that's the Genesis version. I'll show the Super Nintendo real quick because I never bought that. That was given to me by a friend of mine. Childhood friend. We used to play Mortal Kombat together. I had the Genesis version. She had the Super Nintendo. And yep. So all I have is the cartridge, which is fine. I'm not super passionate about like, oh, I have to have the box and the manual for this one. It might be cool to have, but I mean, I'm a huge fan of the arcade. That's the main thing. I'm not so worried about the Super Nintendo version. Next up, the Game Boy. I did get the Game Boy version that Christmas, and quite honestly, the coolest thing about it is this picture on the box, because it reminded you of how cool the arcade was, so you could just kind of look at this and pretend you were at the arcade. There was that. There was the graphic on the cart. That was pretty cool. I like it. It looked nice. So we kind of look at this and imagine how cool it could have been. And then I did like the title screen music. That was actually pretty close to the arcade. Aside from that, most of it was just playing it and using your imagination and just imagining what it could have been. Sad times, but hey, you know, it's alright. We don't really care about all this stuff, do we? Customers, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Nonsensical. Let's check out this poster. What's going on here? Honestly, I haven't seen this in forever, so let's see. Double Dragon, Punisher, Simpsons, Arch Rivals, Smash TV, Double Dragon. Sweet. Alright. This is... Hey, it's a warranty card. I think mine's broken. Can I get another one, please? All right, then the instruction booklet. What is an instruction booklet? I mentioned this before, but it's like, yeah, we keep wanting to get rid of the stuff like this. So you just have a flimsy case that's like the thinnest plastic ever, and then your disc, and that's the end. I guess this would have been the coolest part, just this book. I know I'm ragging on it, but we all know it's garbage, so it's okay. And it could have been good. I don't know if they needed more time or more talent or what, but the Game Boy could have pulled it off a bit better. There's your left-facing dragon again. They actually made it worked okay with 2 buttons. Killer Instincts, turned their 6-button game into a 2-button game, okay. Yeah, if you're looking for a fighting game that is done well on the Game Boy, that's the one to look for. The original Killer Instinct. MK2 is good too, for sure. The thing with the special moves in this one too is, man, you had to do them slowly. Like if I moved back, back, punch, you would do back, back, punch, and then hope that it came out. We're almost done. There's just a couple more things I've got, and that'll be a wrap. Some of the same stuff we saw in the other booklet, but definitely cool, man. Yeah, that picture right there, that's great. Alright, well there's the booklet. We'll put that up. Struggle to do so. So we'll just throw that there and put that there. There we go. Just a couple other things that were going on at the time. This is why do I have this? I don't know. Why do people collect anything? But yeah, the trading cards. I actually had one of them. Kept one of the boxes. Yeah, the cards in there, and I still had one of the packages. Right, if it had Mortal Kombat on it, you had to buy it. I got the old pin. Pins were pretty cheap back then. Look at that, 99 cents. That's how you know it's old. Then there was this. I don't even remember where I got it. I bought it new though. Combat kit. I don't remember what all it had in there. I've got a few things that are still in here, but that's possibly where that pin came from. I don't know. See, anytime they did screenshots though, they show the Super Nintendo version because it looked better. So what do we got in here? Hold on. We have Mortal Kombat tattoos. You remember these temporary tattoos? Put them on your skin, run them under the water. There you go. A tiny little pen, look at that. That's adorable. Mortal Kombat sticker. And then we got some cards. We got Liu Kang. Johnny Cage, again, Super Nintendo. Kino. Whoop. Oh. Sonya. Raiden, that always annoyed me with the Y. I understand why they had to do it, but Sub-Zero. Scorpion. I don't know. Does it have the cards numbered? If not, like that order annoys me. I just want it to be in the actual order. There you go. Character select screen, man. Alright, so that's that. Let me toss this over to the side instead of messing with that right now. There's that. Oh yeah, the Game Gear version. Alright. So, yeah, here's the Game Gear version. Back of the box is pretty cool. Again, we get that arcade on there. And I'll put the game back in here. I didn't remember these trays, dude. So we'll get to the book in just a second. Here's the card. Do you guys even remember this? Recycled pulp tray. I don't remember those. I remember, right, the cardboard ones that come in the Super Nintendo games and stuff, but I didn't remember that. Here's the Game Gear case. Game Gear cartridge. Very cool. And then we'll show the booklet, the manual. Alright, here we go. Probably some of the same stuff, but it's okay. Oh, look at that Terminator on the back. Sweet. It's like, how could it get cooler, right? Mortal Kombat. How could it get cooler? Well, let's throw some Terminator in there as well. Great pictures, man. Yeah, I think I'll skip the comic, I think. I don't even have it handy. But maybe I can do a video on that if you guys want to see it. Try to run through this. You've seen most of the comic already, to be honest. So. Sweet. All right. Well, there's that. And this game's great. This game's absolute garbage. Oh, I haven't played the Game Gear version, but the Genesis version of Judgment Day is absolute trash. It's one of the worst games I've ever played. But the home ports of the arcade game are still fun. And then lastly, I'd come across this. This is the actual, like, old school. This isn't like a newer print where they've like, oh, it's distressed and all that stuff. This is an actual, like, this is the one I got back then. You can see there, 1992. So the distressing in the shirt that's just actually what it is. And then here's how you know it's old. Look at this. I laughed when I saw this. Made in USA. That's how you know it's old. Nobody does that anymore. But yeah, there's the old school shirt. And unfortunately, I bought a large. I don't know that it might be too short, right? But pretty cool having that still. And then the very last thing. I keep saying last thing. I just found out about this, and I know you don't have to get a physical copy, but this is obviously a homemade version. It's actually printed really nicely, but these guys right here, here are the names. They made a mod of Mortal Kombat on the Genesis. Apparently they did this a couple years ago, and I just now heard of it like last week. And I was like, I want that, and I want a physical copy to put on the shelf and to play on my actual Genesis. So You can see they've updated tons of graphics in the game. There's lots of stuff. They've fixed audio. They've added voice samples and all that. So I don't know who actually made this cart, but it's actually done pretty well. And the price I paid on it's like, well, I mean, it was next to nothing. And I got a case and a cartridge. Like if I wanted to do this myself, I'd still have to do that, right? I'd have to download some ROMs and put it on a chip and buy a cart and this and print it out and make labels. And I'm like, or I could just pick this up. So it's very cool, man. There's different revisions of it. So I picked that one up, and I also picked up a later revision that somebody else modded. It's pretty sweet. I'd say if this was the version of the game that came out, dude, I would have been so happy with it because it's actually really well done. Not flawless, but wow, massively improved. So I recommend checking that out. Check out some videos on that. So Genesis Arcade Edition, whatever. But anyway, that's a lot of Mortal Kombat stuff. But Mortal Monday was a big deal, man. So yeah, just hope you guys enjoyed seeing some of this stuff. Oh yeah, I didn't ever show this. A Mortal Kombat strategy guide from GamePro as well. I didn't really need the strategy stuff. I already played the game, but I mean, just endless screenshots. So we won't run through the whole thing, but yeah, just having all this stuff to look at. Definitely cool. Definitely fun. So anyway, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Later.